Hello world, it is Monday, February 6th, 2023, and it's kind of an overcast day, but it's warmish. It was 31 degrees this morning when I went out for a run, and I think it's supposed to be in the 40s today. The devotion for today is entitled Ordinary Time, written by Molly Baskett, and Molly bases the devotion upon Romans chapter 12, verse 3, New International Version. I say to every one of you, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has given you. And then Molly writes, we are still in the liturgical season of Epiphany, what our Catholic siblings call the beginning of ordinary time, when disciples of Jesus are encouraged to mature in daily expression of their faith outside the feasts and fasts of Advent, Christmas, Lent, Easter. It's a time for ordinary growth, not extraordinary growth. What a relief. I've been obsessed lately with this clip, and if you're reading the devotion, you can click on the link, from Kate Bowler's interview of Liz Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. She talks about how in our culture we have been sold in every commencement speech, inspirational talk, and I'll add far too many sermons, on the idea of our specialness, the idea that each of us is born with a unique purpose and we have to craft and hone that purpose until we're at the top of our game, and we'll know we're successful when we've monetized that purpose, mentored others into excellence around that purpose, and left a legacy that has changed the world. No pressure. What if instead it is just enough to want to wonder at the fact that we get to be alive at all? Be here, now, on this amazing planet, inside these bodies, moving and being. What if our spiritual practice, just for today, is to accept our limitations with relief and even joy? We would get to spare ourselves further anxiety and humiliation that we haven't yet cured cancer, brokered world peace, or written a best-selling novel or viral tweet. We would realize that we, in fact, may never do these things, and yet we haven't let that God down. And then Molly's prayer. God, we can't pray it enough. Make me enough for you, then make me enough for me. Amen. Now, a couple of things this devotion brings to mind for me is one of the things I noticed when I moved to Germany is generally the difference in attitude about work between Americans and Germans. And it's a spectrum because there's people that fall in both countries and cultures along the spectrum. But in America, it seemed like we were totally defined by what we did for a living, and that was a very important thing, and it was a huge part of our ego. And I see it as a major issue with many pastors who retire who don't have any identity outside of being a minister. And so when they retire, they don't know what to do. And then they get into trouble because they keep meddling in the churches that they've retired from rather than just being. But the other thing was that in Germany, for the most part, most people I met didn't see their job as their identity. Their job was a means to make money, to do the things they really love to do, to be in the world, to enjoy life. Their job was not a means, was just a means to an end. It was not an identity. And I think that's a great attitude to have about work. Perhaps a privileged attitude in some cases, because those of us who make enough money to actually be able to spend time enjoying life because we're not exhausted from our physical labor or emotional labor. But the other thing this kind of reminded me of is how idealistic most ministers I know, come out of seminary with and thinking they're going to change the world. And it can be very frustrating because we really think we should be seeing a visual change while we live. And I did have a professor once tell me, you may never see any change in your lifetime, but you have no idea the impact you're going to have on somebody's life. And that's enough, just to be. But I think this devotion also tells us that it's important just to take the time to enjoy the moment and enjoy the life that you have, to contemplate it, to think about the things you can enjoy, even just simple things, and just be in the moment and not be constantly striving. Well, I hope you have a good day, and I hope to talk to you again tomorrow.